Winter time, come on, grab your friends. We'll go to very distant lands.
Carl.
Ethan.
Hopes for our graduates.
And the first question is, Carl, why did you come to St. Stanislaus?
I came to St. Stanislaus because I was going to Hancock before, and that just wasn't cutting it educationally.
I came to St. Stanislaus because I had family that went here, and I needed a better education.
That's interesting.
It
What
is.
about school functions? Are you down with the crowd?
Yeah, I guess I am down with the crowd. What about you, Carl? Are you down with the crowd?
Not at all. What about, you mentioned family. What family went here?
I had a great uncle who was actually a brother here, Carl.
Oh. Well, I had a half-brother here, so that's kind of the same thing. What do you expect to get out of your St. Stanislaus education?
Well, first, education. And I guess that's it. What do you expect to get your St. Stanislaus out of your St. Stanislaus education?
I'm looking for a challenge, okay? At Hancock, they had to give me extra work, and I was in gifted programs. That's just too confuzzled, you know?
Confuzzled.
I want
Good vocabulary.
a good challenge like Mr. Roy and Mr. Anderson and Mr. Haberman have given me through these years.
I am also interested in the same thing, Carl.
So, Ethan, obviously you're a pretty talented guy.
Yeah.
How does Stanislaus help you notice those gifts and even limitations?
Well, some of the harder classes, such as chemistry honors, humbled me educationally and made me step up my game and study more. What about you, Carl?
I kind of am in the same situation there. Back in sophomore year, I was cruising by with the wind, not really studying at all. Then my junior year, I had classes so hard I actually had to try in school. So St. Stanislaus really pushed me to be my best.
It did indeed. How has St. Stanislaus taught you a commitment to compassionate justice and service?
Well, most of that comes from the service part because my time at King's Kitchen was heart-changing. Being around and being humbled by the homeless people I was serving really changed my perspective on how I look at people.
The same thing happened to me, Carl. St. Stanislaus inspired me to get out of my comfort zone and work with children in Jamaica who were much poorer than we are in the United States and in need. And it taught me to look at people differently, and it taught me the travesty that is in that nation right now.
That's nice.
That is nice.
Now-
Very nice.
How has St. Stanislaus used their resources to help you become self-disciplined and a man of character?
That is a difficult question, Carl.
Huh.
One thing is, as I mentioned before, there are certain classes in this educational system that are extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And those extremely difficult classes have taught me to study more, work harder, and manage my time.
I agree with those difficult classes, but I think we're both thinking of one person in particular. With Mr. Haberman's AP US History class, that was the real shift in heart whenever we hit our educational
Definitely,
area.
Carl. Definitely. All right. How has St. Stanislaus helped you to nurture positive relationships and build community?
Well, because St. Stanislaus is so active within their student community, you really get to know some of the teachers. And like I said, Haberman's always available for questions if you need to, get some help on an assignment or something.
That's interesting. Well, I agree with you, Carl. What I wrote down was that St. Stanislaus has, since it's so diverse, it has forced me to interact with people I would normally never interact with in a normal daily life. And for that reason, I've had to build community with some very interesting people.
That's nice.
It's very nice.
Ethan, because of your time at Stanislaus, do you feel like you could do more? Like they are pushing you to learn more?
Why, yes. They are pushing me to go to college, in-state. I feel very well prepared for Mississippi State. What about you, Carl?
Well, I am pretty intellectually curious, as they say, working on computers, the stock market, and all that. But also, yes, I do feel prepared for my future at Mississippi State, home of the Bulldogs. Root.
I am also intellectually curious. And I think St. Stanislaus has helped foster that in some ways.
Well done, Stanislaus. Now, suggestions for the school.
What are your suggestions for the school, Carl?
Personally, I feel that the service hours program could be tweaked in order to more suggest service than require it.
Well, I think the restrictions on what hours count for service are very limiting and it makes it way more difficult than it needs to be in order to get service done. I mean, St. Stanislaus is trying to build a habit of service, and yet they make it a pain to do service.
Sensing some tension from your side, Ethan. But yes, I agree that more indirect service opportunities should be accepted as the required service.
I agree also, Carl. What about on other matters, like education?
Well, I don't think having coaches as teachers is the most efficient thing for education, but I do understand the financial limitations of hiring full-time teachers.
I also agree, Carl. Some coaches don't really like being teachers. They prefer coaching their sport, and that is their passion. And whenever you tack on another class, it just becomes this thing they don't want to do. And it really translates to the students.
Yes.
It does indeed.